Today in cannabis news, Republican lawmakers in the Wisconsin Legislature clearly state that they will purposely reject medical and recreational cannabis proposals in the state. A bipartisan group of U.S. Congresspeople reintroduced a bill to federally legalize medical cannabis use for veterans, and Senator Cory Booker says that President Joe Biden would support a federal cannabis legalization bill, even if they don't like using the L word. It's Monday, April 19th, and this is your TRICHOMES Morning Buzz.
Broadcasting live from the TRICHOMES.com studios in Southern California, it's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
First up, in a report by the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, the Wisconsin State Senate leader said that Republicans in the legislature will not allow medicinal or recreational cannabis legalization in the state. In pointing to the legislature's minimum vote threshold, Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu said we don't have support from the caucus. That's pretty clear, that we don't have 17 votes in the caucus for medicinal purposes or recreational purposes to legalize it. For weeks, LeMahieu as well as some Republican lawmakers have stated unequivocally that they would oppose Democratic Governor Tony Evers' plan to legalize recreational cannabis. However, a few Republicans support medical cannabis, and it seemed that laws on the subject would pass the legislature. LeMahieu said that wouldn't occur in an online Q&A discussion with WisPolitics. They believe that legalizing cannabis for medicinal purposes must be addressed through the federal government. I think that discussion needs to be done at the federal level and not have some rogue state doing it without actual science behind it, LeMahieu said.
Next up, a bipartisan group of policymakers in Congress have revived a proposal to authorize medical cannabis for military veterans on a federal level. Representatives Barbara Lee and Dave Joyce, co-chairs of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, are sponsoring the proposal in the House, along with 9 additional founding co-sponsors. Senator Brian Schatz is heading the charge in the Senate and is accompanied by Senator Bernie Sanders and 5 more senators. The Veterans Medical Marijuana Safe Harbor Act would enable veterans to momentarily acquire and consume cannabis as prescribed by physicians in compliance with state statute. For the first time, doctors with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs would be able to make those suggestions. In addition, VA will be required to investigate the medicinal efficacy of cannabis for pain relief and the reduction of opioid abuse. Currently, VA doctors are permitted to discuss cannabis use with veterans, but they are not permitted to issue guidelines for them to purchase cannabis, even in states where it is legal. Previous iterations of the accompanying measures were presented in the previous 2 Congresses, but failed to gain traction. With Democrats in charge of both houses and the White House this session, there's renewed hope that cannabis-related legislation will pass in 2021.
And last up, even though they personally reject legalization, Senator Cory Booker claims that President Joe Biden is actually on board with federal legalization, even if they don't use the L word specifically, and instead prefers cannabis decriminalization. Senator Booker explained that the ambiguity about the president's status is simply due to semantics. In a recent interview, Booker said that President Biden's support for decriminalization would be sufficient to implement the cannabis policy reform they're collaborating on with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden. The explanation for this, they said, is that the legalization plan would ultimately decriminalize cannabis at the federal level by eliminating it from the controlled substances list and allowing states to set their respective regulations, which Biden favors. I think it should be legalized, but what we need to do at the federal level is delist marijuana. And as soon as you decriminalize marijuana, you open up states that right now are not able to do a lot of things to give way for what I want to achieve, Booker said. His policy position on marijuana, he may say, I'm not for legalization, I'm for decriminalization. As a federal official, that's where I'm trying to get. Essentially, Booker isn't worried that Biden would be a roadblock if Congress approves the cannabis legalization measure they're hoping to submit, so long as individual states aren't required to establish market regulations and taxes if they choose not to.
That was today's Buzz. Thanks for listening. For more cannabis news and insights from industry professionals and a place to discuss these stories and others, visit TRICHOMES.com.
And be sure to catch up with all of our other cannabis industry-related podcasts like Hash It Out, Careers in Cannabis, or the International Cannabis Conversation wherever you get your podcasts. For TRICHOMES.com, I'm David Fortin.
And I'm Devin Leal. Have a great day.